Will Howard has never beaten Texas, and that has become a top story in large part because he talked about it. But I really want to take a fine-tooth comb to this and tell you why even Will Howard is getting this kind of wrong. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Please subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here on the channel. We talk college football 24/7, 365, and we have a great time doing it. If you're a returning viewer to the show and you haven't subscribed, I'm going to ask you to do that and ring the bell, like the video, and leave me a comment below. Do you think that it's a thing, like that it's a big deal that Will Howard has played Texas 3 times and has never won? Because maybe you do. Because bottom line is, yeah, we care about winning more than we care about stats, more than we care about what you were doing then. But given that this is the Cotton Bowl, and given that Will Howard is the quarterback at Ohio State getting ready to play Texas, I wanted to really talk about this and see if Texas fans even remember what the Will Howard experience was actually like. So he plays 3 times. The first time he played against Texas was in 2020. Texas was ranked number 20 in the country. They lost that game at Kansas State 69-31. Lopsided like you read about, beat them by 38. But in that game, Will Howard was 16 of 27 with 2 TDs and 2 picks. He also rushed for 79 yards on 18 carries, okay? So not a terrible day for him, a terrible day for the defense. And let's remember, they put up 31 points on offense. Then in 2021, we get perhaps the worst outing that Will Howard has had against Texas, but they lost this game 22-17. It's a 1-score game. He went 9 of 13, 65 yards passing, 8 for 82. I'm also going to add in here, Casey Thompson's quarterback of that team, 2020. We're talking about the leading receiver on that 2020 team being Jake Smith, who's stops at USC, Arizona State. Okay? He had 4 catches, 55 yards. Bijan Robinson is on these teams. Joshua Moore is on these teams. Malcolm Epps is on these teams. Malik Murphy throwing passes in 2023. These aren't even guys that are playing in college football anymore. But let's go on to 2023 and talk about that. 26 of 41 for Will Howard, 327 passing yards, 4 passing TDs, 1 pick. Also, we got a TD to interception ratio of 7-2 in 3 outings, right? I'm also going to add to you, these are the dudes that were catching passes from Will Howard in those 3 years. Phillip Brooks, Chase Brown, Keegan Johnson, Malik Knowles. Of those 4 guys, perhaps Malik Knowles might make the roster at Ohio State. Now, remember, Will Howard is quarterbacking an Ohio State team that has Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver, Emeka Ibuka at wide receiver, Carnell Tate at wide receiver, Brandon Ennis at wide receiver, Quinshon Judkins at tailback, Travion Henderson at tailback. He hasn't been sacked 1 friggin' time in the playoffs, okay? So the idea that this Will Howard is going to see the same outcome as the last 3 Will Howards is asinine. It's ridiculous. If you're a Texas fan, you know this. You know that the team that he's playing on is not Kansas State, okay? The price of brick has gone up with him transitioning to Ohio State, transferring to Ohio State. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Yesterday's team is not today's team. I'm also going to add in here, have you forgotten that Will Howard took the same Kansas State team and beat Texas Christian in the Big 12 championship in a year where Texas Christian was able to do what Ohio State wasn't, which is beat Michigan and make the national championship game? I didn't want to go there, but I needed to go there so that everybody understands what we're talking about here. I have been beating the drum for Will Howard for the better part of a year. A lot of Ohio State fans still don't think he's that good. I gave a segment just the other day going, compare his stats to Quinn Ewers. He's stomping out Quinn Ewers. He's throwing for more yards. He's throwing for more TDs. He's got a higher completion percentage for the people that want to talk about Quinn Ewers missing 2.5 games. What the hell did that got to do with him completing passes? I'm trying to tell y'all, all Will Howard has to do is play the kind of football he's been playing the last 2 games, and it's not going to be close. This is the best chance that Ohio State has had to win a national championship since 2020. Hello, same 2020 in which Texas was supposed to be good but wasn't. Okay? Also, that 2020 team Tom Herman was the head coach of that team. Steve Sarkisian wasn't even nowhere near that. He was at Alabama. What are we doing with this? Like, I credit to my guy, Jake Trotter, for getting on this story and the story taking on new life. But I'm here having to talk about this and doing the diligence of looking through what transpired in these games and what was the roster looking like. 2020, we're not even talking about name, image, and likeness being a thing. We're talking about Kansas State at a time when they're figuring it out, okay? Now, Chris Klieman is since then, but are we going to just forget that Kansas State won a Big 12 championship in the playoff era before Texas did? Are we gonna not act like that's a thing? Are we gonna pretend that Kansas State was not always overachieving like they did this year, by the way, with more or less the same kind of talent that they've had? And Will Howard going to Ohio State is a business decision on both ends, man. It is a capable grad transfer quarterback that is talented enough to lead the offense, but also doesn't need to be the playmaker on the offense. He's got those guys. And that's before we start talking about what the defense is going to be like, the one that's going to be chasing Quinn Ewers against an offensive line that's given up 5 sacks in 2 games. He has also shown you he will throw the ball to other people. It's another thing that Will Howard just hasn't done a whole bunch of the last 2 games. He's been seeing it, and he's been giving his guys one-on-one opportunities to go win. So when we talk about Will Howard not beating Texas, I think we need to caveat that with at Kansas friggin' State. I love Kansas State. I really do. I love Bill Snyder. I enjoy Kansas State football. I like watching it. But I'm not going to sit here and act as if Ohio State is playing with the same roster that Kansas State was playing with when they played Texas, all right? We're not going to do that. We're simply not going to do that. We're also forgetting here in 2023, they damn near beat Texas at Texas on the 40 acres, okay? It didn't go the way that he wanted to go, but that ain't got nothing to do with how Will Howard was playing football. I also think that we're talking about play calling here too. Without looking it up, you tell me who the offensive coordinator is at Kansas State 2020, 2021, 2023. If your answer's not Courtney Messingham, then we're not here. We're not talking on the same level. His offensive coordinator, as much as Ohio State fans want to talk noise, is Chip Kelly, who has taken a team to the national championship game. You know what I'm saying? Like, who has had Heisman winners. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? Are we really going to have this discussion? Because if we're going to have this discussion, I'm going to keep punting on this one. I mean, punting you. I mean, not punting on the argument. Because this one's laid out. This one's easy. We should be spending our time on other things. Like, do we think that Jahdae Barron is going to need help over the top of Jeremiah Smith? Spoiler alert, yes. And I think you better split Andrew Makuba to the other side. You better be using those defensive backs in ways that they haven't been used all season if you want a shot here. And even then, are you really going to stop Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson running the football? Also, let's remember Will Howard is a much more mobile threat than Quinn Ewers. I just laid that out for you. We got 79 rushing yards in 2020. We got 82 rushing yards in 2021. And when you want to take away him running, he went for 327 and 4 TDs. Will Howard, go do the damn thing against Texas at the Cotton Bowl on Friday. And please put all of this to rest because this is ridiculous.